I don't know if this is considered a hot take or not, but Alien Earth is everything that I wanted Alien Romulus to be and more. There's been a lot of praise heaped on this show over the past couple of weeks, and normally that would be a massive red flag. But in this case, for the most part, I think a lot of that praise is definitely warranted. Let's discuss.
I watch so you don't have to.
Before I get started, I'd like to kindly ask that you hit the like button, and please subscribe to the channel for more content just like this.
Come on. Do it. Do it!
So Alien Earth is the new FX Hulu series created by Noah Hawley. The events of the series are set 2 years before the events of the original 1979 film. Now I know that the thought of getting yet another prequel story in this universe is going to be a major turnoff for a lot of people. But to me, Alien Earth, at least after 3 episodes, fits in pretty well with what has already been established in the franchise so far. I know that movies like Prometheus and Covenant and Alien 3 have been a thorn in a lot of fans' sides for years. A lot of people were not fans of the way that those movies took big creative swings. That just so happens to be precisely why I enjoy them.
Fool this man!
I like my Alien stories to take some chances. This has never been a franchise that's been afraid to present new concepts. And that's precisely why a movie like Alien Romulus that came out last year did not work for me because, put quite simply, it was just too safe. That movie basically came off to me as them playing the Alien hits. And there's no reason for me to watch something like that when I could just as easily watch the things that it's referencing and probably have a better time. To me, Alien Earth manages to find a bit more of a balance, where it's showing us things that we've seen before, but it's also doing it in a very unique way. The first episode's setup is almost identical to the opening sequence of the original film, complete with cryo chambers opening up and breakfast table conversations and all. So at this point, I was at least thinking to myself, at least they tried to make the look of this series consistent with the original film. But also I was thinking, are we really going to let an alien outbreak on a ship storyline play out again in one of these stories? And I quickly had my questions answered because in Alien Earth, we actually don't get to see the shit hitting the fan. We get to see more of the aftermath, and this allows the audience to use their imaginations based on things that we've seen for other movies. And in that aspect, I think it made this opening sequence a lot more impactful.
That makes sense.
In fact, a highlight of Alien Earth for me personally is that it feels like it's more confident in its audience to process some more lofty ideas. There is a hefty amount of world building going on in these first 3 episodes. World building that expands on things we already know, presents new ideas to us, and new evil corporations for us to sink our teeth into. Just the concept that Weyland-Yutani isn't the only corporation out there in this universe, looking for things that they shouldn't and creating things that they shouldn't, was actually very refreshing to me. In fact, most of these first 3 episodes focus very much on the Prodigy Corporation, who have somehow found a way to download a human into a synthetic body, essentially making human death obsolete. Peter Weyland must be rolling in his grave right now.
We were on the verge of greatness. We were this close.
But in typical Alien Universe fashion, the way that they go about it isn't exactly on the up and up. And the first episode for me was an absolute gut punch. Seeing them manipulate sick children into volunteering for this program, presenting themselves as saviors and pioneers, but we all know that they are probably doing it for very selfish reasons. Plus, this presents a lot of deep philosophical questions that this show intends to explore about what it means to be human. And we get a first-hand glimpse of that, seeing how each child kind of takes to their new situation in different ways. Wendy is our lead character and the first of these children to become a hybrid. She's played by Sydney Chandler, and I thought she did a great job playing a child trapped in an adult body. And her brother's relationship is also a driving force of these first 3 episodes. And it added a bit of heart to the series that I did not go into it expecting.
Why do you cry?
Shout out to Timothy Oliphant as Synthetic Kirsch, who, if I'm being honest, is giving off a little bit of those David vibes. I think he's a bit more concerned, or at least programmed to be concerned, about the well-being of others than David was. But you can also see that he's kind of taking a personal interest in these specimens, and that he's somewhat pleased when he is put in charge of this operation. So I do think it will be interesting to see in what direction his character goes. The other standout character in the series, and to me the best character, was Morrow the Cyborg, the third version of artificial intelligent advancements that we see in this series. Being a cyborg, he is obviously part synthetic, but in his own words, he has all the worst parts of humans. He is an employee of the Weyland-Yutani Corporation who takes a personal interest in reacquiring the specimens that they lose when their ship from the beginning of the series crashes in the middle of the Prodigy City. I think a character like this is interesting for a few different reasons, but mostly because he is obviously going to be a threat to anyone who stands in his way. But he's also a bit more vulnerable than the typical synthetic characters that we see in this universe. And by the fact that he's asking morally complex questions about his own actions. So we are basically getting a new type of character who is now being forced to navigate this very dangerous world. And I did find his character and his motivations to be pretty fascinating, at least in the first 3 episodes.
I like it a lot.
As far as the alien creatures themselves go, we get a lot more than just xenomorphs and facehuggers in this series. And a lot of the new additions are pretty terrifying. A certain blood-sucking insect and an octopus-looking creature with human eyes come to mind. Again, just kind of expanding the universe and making us think about all the horrors that we haven't seen yet. As far as the xenomorphs themselves go, great to see as always, but if I'm being honest, I felt like they showed them a bit too much, especially in episode 2. And in that episode, there are sequences toward the end where the scenes including the xenomorphs did come off a bit hokey to me. Like when one of them kills a party full of rich people dressed in costumes that are apparently participating in this universe's version of Diddy Freakoffs. It was presented as almost comedic, and it was tonally weird for me because of that.
Haven't you ever heard of the healing power of laughter?
Also, I found it kind of ridiculous how the xenomorphs would rip through a group of soldiers in seconds, only to conveniently take their time with certain characters who apparently have a bit more plot armor. Don't get me wrong, there were also moments where the xenomorphs looked as menacing as ever. But there were other moments where their presentation did feel a bit off to me. It wasn't enough to ruin the experience completely, but for me personally, when it comes to xenomorphs, I always think that less is more. One other character that I forgot to mention was the boy genius character who started Prodigy. Incredibly unlikable and cocky, as rich assholes should be, but I did think that it was interesting that they explained his actions in his own words in a way that felt on brand for this world. In fact, I actually felt like there were parallels to be drawn with how he was portrayed and how Weyland was portrayed in Prometheus.
Whoopie f***ing do. Hey, I'm impressed.
He's kind of searching for answers, searching for someone or something that is smarter or greater than himself. He's just going about it in a way that's probably going to cause more problems than anything, which is actually pretty close to how Weyland operated as well. The ending of episode 3 definitely created more questions than answers, which is typically a good thing. How did Morrow tap into the hybrid's head and speak to him? Did the company kill Joe and use his organs to harvest aliens? Why is Wendy showing a connection to the eggs and facehuggers? When a series leaves you with questions that you feel like you need answered, I guess that it's doing its job. All in all, I felt like the first 3 episodes of Alien Earth were great, minor issues aside. It feels a lot more ambitious and thought-provoking, like I like my Alien content to be. It manages to capture the essence and vibe of the original film in some aspects, while also being its own thing. I highly recommend you giving Alien Earth a chance if you are a fan of most entries in this franchise like I am.
Y'all be cool. Nah.